So I thought I'd begin by talking about neurodiversity, and I kind of want to disentangle a couple of things. So specifically, I'm interested in neurodiversity as a kind of political claim, but also I'm interested in what I call the kind of aesthetics of neurodiversity. So to kind of just very briefly kind of give an overview. So the politics of neurodiversity, for those of you who aren't familiar, I'm going to quote from, this is a fantastic book, Loud Hands. It's by the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. And it's, I believe that it was the first edited collection of writings by actually autistic people talking about various things, including this idea of neurodiversity. One of the writers, Nick Walker, kind of gives a two-point definition of the neurodiversity paradigm. And so he says the first point is neurodiversity, and this is a quote, neurodiversity, the diversity of brains and minds, is a natural, healthy and valuable form of human diversity. There is no normal style of human brain or human mind any more than there's any one normal race or ethnicity or gender or culture. So that's the first point. And he said the second, that all of the diversity dynamics, so dynamics of power, dynamics of privilege and marginalization that are in society in relation to other forms of diversity also manifest in relation to neurodiversity. So just as we can talk about white privilege, we can talk about neurotypical privilege. Kind of systemic inequality in favour of the neurotypical majority. So that's kind of the political claim there, that kind of we need to have this term which allows us to talk about, like particularly as we heard in kind of the discussion about shy introvert, talking about kind of the way that society is structured in favour of neurotypical people and the ways in which this might be disabling. And I think that's a really important kind of claim and idea and kind of argument. But also, I'm interested in what I call, as I said, the aesthetics of neurodiversity. John Adams, who's a neurodivergent artist, he's a brilliant conceptual artist. I think he summarises this quite concisely when he says, if you want art that's different, you need artists that think differently. And so basically, I'm interested in the idea that kind of, with neurodiversity, with different kinds of minds, you have different perspectives on the world. And that I think understanding this and thinking about this as a way of opening out understandings of different aesthetics, I think is really valuable. So these two interests kind of led me to a project I'm going to talk about, which was the Autism Arts Festival. Is a program I'll leave it kind of around. At the end of April, so a couple of weeks ago in fact, I organised a 2-day festival of arts by and for people on the autistic spectrum. The reason why I did this is ultimately I think the art world just isn't very autism friendly. Firstly, if you're an artist, if you're a creative, then networking is such a fundamental part of kind of getting your work out there. Like kind of, I'm sure we all know artists who are brilliant, but just not very extroverted, not very good at kind of getting their work out there. Then I'm sure we can think of other artists whose work is, but they are really good at promoting themselves. So I think kind of systemically, the art world is very much in favour of kind of the extroverts that we were hearing about in the last panel. Also, if you're someone on the spectrum you might struggle kind of with sensory stuff, then festivals in particular are busy, they're noisy, they can be really overwhelming. If you've ever been to the Edinburgh Fringe, that's a really challenging environment. I think for anyone, I think that kind of, and I think because of that, there are a host of people that just don't attend these events because they're not very accessible, they're not very autism friendly. And also, this is an obvious point, but I think it's worth saying, the arts is still very London-centric. And so even though there's fantastic autism-friendly performances happening across London, if you can't travel on the tube, that's not accessible for you. That's not something you can do. So as I said, I organised this 2-day festival. It's, as far as I'm aware, the first of its kind, certainly in the UK. And we took over the University of Kent campus, so I work at the University of Kent, and it's a very quiet campus in Canterbury, which is quite a nice cathedral city. And outside of term time, it's really quiet, which meant that we could kind of create an environment that, in terms of sensory, we can adapt to the environment more than kind of a bespoke kind of theatre or a conventional space. And in terms of designing the festival, it drew on autistic-run conferences like Autscape, if anyone's familiar with that. They have systems like chill-out spaces, so there's lots of kind of spaces where if you're feeling overwhelmed or you just kind of want to be alone, you can go there. But also we had audience packs with, on the one hand, ear protectors, so everyone got a set of ear protectors so that if you are sensitive to kind of noise or sounds, then you can kind of put these in. But also these things, color coordination, color communication badges. So this was designed, I think, originally in Autscape, and the idea is that you can kind of very easily indicate whether you're happy for people to kind of approach you or kind of whether you'd rather be left alone. And also a fidget toy, because that helps with concentration. And also in the program, and as I said, like, feel free to kind of pass that around and look at the program. All the shows, we ask very detailed information about potential triggers and that sort of stuff. Okay, so I don't want to waffle about it too much because this is meant to be a dialogue. How am I doing for time? Am I waffling? Okay. So yeah, like I said, it was the first one we organised, but we were really happy with how it went. So over 500 tickets sold for various different events. Although it was in Canterbury, people came from as far as Scotland, but also Birmingham and Bristol, which we were really pleased with. The feedback we've had so far, 100% of people we surveyed out of around 30 said they wanted it to happen again, and all of them said it was either very accessible or excessive. And we're planning to interview the artists over the summer. Yes. So I just kind of want to end by kind of starting with a provocation. And I think it's probably fitting that I'm making this in an environment that, to be honest, I find quite difficult, because it's so busy. And my provocation is simply this. I think if we want artists that really think differently, then we need to rethink the social and attitudinal spaces of the art world. If the spaces in which the arts happen aren't very accessible, then we aren't going to have really exciting neurodivergent arts. So, and Paul Wadey, one of the artists at the festival, has joined at that very opportune moment. So that's all I have to say. So I'm going to pass the mic.
Hi, everybody. My name is Guilaine, and I am a therapist, and I also write. So when I was given this brief, I was told to talk about neurodiversity. I think I missed the art part. Sorry, but I will definitely be talking a little bit about neurodiversity. And because the brief was so broad, I thought I'd just let the vibe go and see where the reflection take me. And I got stuck on one anecdote, So I'm going to talk a little bit about this anecdote to start with. And the anecdote, which some of you might have seen online, is the story of a French journalist who compared people with learning disability to black people live on air. Has anybody seen that? It was circulated on social media quite a bit, and it just appeared on my timeline a few weeks ago. So basically what she was saying is that 96% in France at least of fetuses who are expected to develop Down syndrome are aborted. And she felt rightly that it was outrageous. And then she went on to say, well, nobody aborts black people because we are black. So everybody was kind of shocked. But there was a lot of outrage, as you can imagine, live on air. Even the core journalists were kind of gasping for air, grasping their mouth, not knowing what to do. And that was live, as you can imagine. And then there was a lot of discussion online, and people kind of, in the main, not really getting the comparison. So I think there's some problem with the comparison. I think, first of all, it kind of evokes the history of black people being seen as intellectually deficient. Also, what it does, it erases people who are both black and have a learning disability. And also, what it does not do is kind of spell out that some of us really have no choice when it comes to having children. We have black children, so it's not like we can choose or not choose to have a black child. So the comparison is a bit odd. But then I started thinking that there was also some problems with people being so outraged by the comparison. A lot of black people felt that it was racist and said so online mainly. And then there was that one woman, because there's always that one woman, saying that she felt actually that it was insulting to people with learning disability to be compared to black people. And on balance, I think most people felt that there was ableist sentiment as well being reflected. So I thought that perhaps neurodiversity would offer a nice paradigm, a nice framework to kind of make sense of what's going on here in terms of perhaps the struggle for recognition and acceptance, and perhaps wisdom the most normal in terms of both groups. So there are clearly some similarities and some differences between the struggle of people who are neurodivergent and people who are of color face. Historically, both groups have been deemed the other, the racial other, or the intellectually other than the neurodivergent. There's been a lot of attempt at perhaps clearing societies from various parts of the world of both groups. So we're talking really in terms of issues of eugenics. And both groups have been deemed inferior, one way or the other. But I was thinking about a more materialist perspective. Black and brown people have been marginalized and oppressed because this was necessary for imperialism and for colonialism to essentially take place. So there has been a very strong link between the oppression of people of color and of course capitalism. And when I started thinking about the oppression of neurodivergent people, I thought, well, it's interesting because it seems that the oppression is because people who are neurodivergent cannot be so easily exploited through capitalism and often have been deemed to be surplus to need, or perhaps to be personal non grata because they haven't been able to fit neatly within exploitative system of capitalism. And in terms of social inequalities, I think if we look at both groups, if you look at both groups, there are again striking similarities. So for instance, we know that neurodivergent people are overrepresented in the forensic system. We know that they are more or less likely to be full-time education. We know that they are more likely to experience hate crime, to face bullying, to have to face discrimination, and to encounter massive difficulties in terms of having their needs met systemically. And also, one thing which I thought was quite striking is in society's attempt to force assimilation on both groups, leading to not only in terms of issues of material and social injustice, but we're talking also in terms of issues of ontological and epistemological injustice and violence, which is quite normalized towards both groups. So I thought, okay, there's something I thought quite interesting in terms of looking at the overlap in the struggle. And I thought that perhaps it would be interesting to look at neurodiversity and consider the potential that it has for liberation. And not only for liberation of people who are neurodivergent, but for all oppressed groups potentially. So I thought that maybe if you go back to what neurodiversity is, it might offer some clues in terms of where we might start. So to start with what neurodiversity is, as was introduced earlier, is the idea that there are a number of ways to be in the world, that there is an infinite number of variations in neurocognitive functioning within the human species, and that all those variations are normal and valid. So neurodiversity is also the rejection of the medical model, which looks at disability within the individual, and creates firm boundaries between what is normal and what is abnormal, and locates the dysfunction within the individual, within people who are neurodivergent. So rather than doing so, what neurodiversity offers is a framework to embrace a more social model of disability, of impairment, or of differences. And what we are saying is that there is nothing inherently disabling within any impairment, but that it is society which by its inability or unwillingness to accommodate and make space for neurodiversity, that people experience disability, that people are marginalized, that people are excluded, and that people experience suffering. So the three basic tenets of neurodiversity is that that neurodiversity is different, is normal, and that is valuable. The second is that what we deem right, what we deem normal, what we deem healthy is socially constructed, and therefore quite arbitrary. And the third one is that the dynamics that arise between neurotypical and neurodivergent people are rooted in power relations and serve the social orders. So they are really specific function in terms of how they work as well. So to go back to the story of the journalist, of the French journalist who compared people with learning disability to black people, I think it's important that using neurodiversity as a framework is that we are reminded to value difference and to critically examine any pathologization, any hierarchization attempt, and to put an emphasis on social justice by shifting the gaze away from the individual and more onto social issues to do with stigma, and again with marginalization, with exclusion, and the function that they serve. And also we are reminded that there are various ways to be in the world and to experience the world, and by extension, again, that those social hierarchies are socially constructed, both within neurocognitive functioning paradigms, but also within all social identity groups. So there was something that struck me perhaps, and I think a lot in analogies, but I thought that there's something about a ladder that comes to mind. And when people were fighting, the people who were black and the people who were, learning disabled, fighting about who is the most socially valued group, and we should feel insulted by the comparison. I thought that there was something about each group trying to go up the ladder of humanity and trying to step on each other's head to see which one would be deemed the most acceptable, or the most normal, or to have a more valid claim to a higher social status. And I think what neurodiversity as a paradigm does is that it reminds us that the problem is not actually whose head you're stepping on to try and get on top of the social ladder, the ladder of humanity. It's actually the existence of the ladder itself that is the problem. and that perhaps this ladder only serves very few people, if any at all, perhaps exclusively the most powerful in society. So I guess for me, embracing neurodiversity, something about projecting that ladder, not only in terms of neurocognitive functioning, but in terms of being the world.
So, to clarify, this is a talk about maintaining what I call a dyspraxis, which is kind of a dyspraxic practice. It's like a stupid neologism, which I think dyspraxics are really good at for some reason. So to clarify, which is something they like us to do, my dyspraxis refers to when I stop trying to pass off as a highly functional neurotypical for a little bit and make off-kilter weird performances. I am thinking a lot about how this dyspraxis can also put to use in what I call the extended universe of my performance art practice, by which I mean a workshop leading dyspraxis, an outreach dyspraxis, a writing dyspraxis, a presentation giving dyspraxis, a Longtable hosting dyspraxis. All the stuff a performance dyspractitioner has to do in these times to maintain their performance making dyspraxis. I wonder who might allow or support this. Is that clear? Because that's my main thing that this is about. After this thing, might get a bit messy, and that's all part of my dyspraxis. So for example, something I often say in my dyspraxis is this. There may be times during this when you find it difficult to understand what's happening, or what I'm saying, or what it's got to do with the thing this is meant to be about. But if that happens, I want you to think to yourself, what is it that you're doing in here and in here that is stopping yourself understanding that, and then carry on. There might also be times where you feel uncomfortable about what's being asked of you, and if that happens, I want you to think to yourself, what is it that you're doing in here and in here that is stopping yourself feeling uncomfortable with it, and then carry on. Any questions, for example? You can ask me if I could just talk a little bit more about what I mean, like specifically what I mean about what a dyspraxis is. I can clarify it by saying what my friend artist Katie Baird said about what my friend artist Brian Nobel said about my dyspraxis. Katie told me that she said to Brian, you know, I think Daniel Oliver is probably the only white straight male artist whose work I like. And then Brian said, yeah, that's because Daniel Oliver is a fucking weirdo. And I find that very affirmative and a very wonderful thing, and I know Brian said it from a place of goodness. We talked about it over email, and he said he thought weirdos were people who view the world through their own logic and rationality, but whose worldview he's interested in knowing, and that they make his mind work a bit more than usual and in a different direction than normal. On the other hand, there's educational consultant Shaun, who says that dyspraxic people can have difficulties participating in conversations, and this can lead to an apparent unwillingness to join in or making contributions that do not seem relevant. I hope that's clear. So, a dyspractitioner is a weirdo who embraces their own and others' unwillingness and or apparent irrelevancy when it comes to joining in. So what I'm asking you, not you, but pretending like you are like a facilitator, a producer, a funder or something, a conference organiser, someone who puts on workshops, is can you help to support an extended universe dyspraxis? Can you facilitate a dyspraxic approach to facilitation? Like I'm the facilitator, like I'm facilitating people to be in that extended universe that I facilitate in my facilitating stuff dyspraxis. And if you're like DIY cultures, you're like, yeah, sure, we can facilitate you facilitating stuff in your facilitating dyspraxis. And if you are an organisation that I won't mention, you'll say, when an artist hasn't got great facilitation skills, we backfill them with people who are actually really great at facilitation. And I worry that in this scenario, my facilitation dyspraxis gets backfilled by someone who is what they call actually really great at facilitation. Okay, so talking about being really great at facilitation, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the Longtable